Hey, ceramics, it is our last week. So what we're going to do, we're going to review our wheel throwing. I know you guys, of course, can't get on the wheel, but everyone should have had an opportunity before we got booted out in March to be on the wheel at least one time. So we're going to go over all the steps for wheel throwing, how to get started, how to position your hands in your body, and then how to take your piece off of the wheel. All right. Um, so you're also going to have some questions, and then on Thursday we'll talk about trimming. But today we're going to talk about wheel throwing. So, so how to wheel throw? Remember, you always want to start with about 1.5 pounds of clay. Any more than that right now for beginners is going to be a little bit too much to handle. And also remember, you're supposed to have 4 balls of clay that are wedged and ready to go. And you want a really good wedged clay, because if it's not and you got dry spots and wet spots and everything inside of it, then it's going to show when you are on the wheel and you start to try to pull up. You're going to have lumps in it, you're going to have bubbles in it. So you don't want that. You want all the air pockets out, and you want all the clay to be the same consistency. But you need to have 4 of them ready, and you need to make sure they're in a plastic bag waiting for you, because you don't want them to get dry either, because then that's going to make it a different consistency and texture, right? All right, we're ready. We got our clay. We're going to get our little bat. We're going to attach it to our wheel head. Then we're going to take our finger. We're going to get it damp, and then we're going to turn the wheel on. We're going to get the center of our bat damp. After we do that, turn it off, and then you're going to take your 1.5 pounds of clay, and you're going to slam it down, slam it down into the center of your wheel head. All right. And then you can turn it on and then make sure it's centered. You can pound it with your dry hands a little bit. All right. Now you want to get your hands wet. Not little fingertips, but you want to get your hands wet. You want to sit close to the wheel head. Remember, scooch it all the way up. So you're squeezing it with your thighs. Get those elbows on your into your ribs there. Really get into the ribs there and lean over so your nose is directly over the center of that clay. Right, now you got to skirt it, right? You got to get it attached. If you don't get it skirted, it's going to fall off. It's going to fly off because water gets caught underneath it. And you don't want water caught underneath it. You want to make sure it's attached nice and firmly. So you're going to get your hands wet. You're going to push down on that clay. You're not going to push forward, okay? You want to push down on that clay. Now remember, you want that speed of your wheel to be really fast, okay? Because this is really, really fast. So you want it to go in around. So you're pressing down until you have the rim around that clay is all the way sealed. Okay, so you want it sealed. Now you're ready for coning. Okay, coning is nothing more than wedging on the wheel. Okay, you want it to make go up. You're bringing that clay up, and then you're going to be pushing it down. McKenna, I wish I had you here right now because I'd be having you do the demonstration because you were the best coner I've had in a long time. But so you want to make sure you're compressing and you're just squeezing. Okay, you're in the front there and you're just squeezing it, and you're letting the clay come up in between your hands. You're not coming up with it. You're squeezing it, and the clay is going to pop right up. You can use your thumbs as a guide. Otherwise, you'll get your volcanoes, right? And I'm the world's greatest at getting volcanoes. I can show you what not to do. But again, if I had McKenna, she could show you how to do it. So you want to take those thumbs and top it off and press it back down, and just in case you're getting a little bit of a volcano. Once you have that coned up, all right, and again, make sure your elbows and everything is tight against your body. You don't want any flapping arms going on, because if you do, it's not going to be coning. It's going to be going every which way, and you don't want that. You want nice, consistent. And you don't want to squeeze in one place, because if you squeeze in one place, you're going to end up squeezing it right off, and it's going to pop off, and you're going to have a ball of clay in your hand, and you're going to have the rest of it on your wheel head. So you're going to be going downward, okay? You're going to be coning downward. So you're going to place your left hand right against the, nice securely against your elbow, and it's up against the side of your hand. Now make sure your hands are wet. All right, you can't do this with dry hands. You gotta make sure it's wet. So you're up against the clay, taking your right hand now on top, and you're gonna be pushing down. You're interlocking, and you're pushing it down, downward, back to the wheel. And again, it's fast. Now that you've got it done a few times, you want to try to cone at least 2 or 3 times. Now you're ready for your centering, okay? When you're centering, you've got that left hand pushed right there around 6 o'clock. Now remember, we're going to think about our clock, our wheel head as a clock. We got 6 o'clock, that's right there at the bottom, and then you got 3 o'clock over on the right hand side. You want that left hand and that pushed up there between the 6 and the 7 right there in between. Okay, you want this part of your hand right up against it, and you're just kind of like relaxed but still really coming in with that shoulder and coming into it. So you're pushing forward, all right, and then you're taking your right hand, you're pushing downward. So it's both motions at the same time, forward and downward motion with your hands. Now you don't want to go all the way across the clay. You're going from the center down when you're pushing down on it, okay? So now you're ready to open. There's multiple ways to open, all right? We talked about that. You can use the 2-thumb approach, all right? Or you could do the 1-finger approach, or you could do the middle finger approach, get it started, and then use 3-finger claw type opening. It's all up to you, all right? But you want to go now a little slower. You got to slow the speed down. You got to get it to about medium. And again, you got to think about the clock going on here. You don't want to start taking things over around 12 o'clock or 9 o'clock. You want to stay in that 3 to 6 o'clock range. But you're slower. You put your thumbs in or your fingers in, or you do that little gun shot part where you push it down and you got everything nicely secured. And you're going to want to make a hole, okay? Leave enough clay now when you're going down. Don't go all the way down until you get to the wheel head. You want to leave about a 1/2 inch. So turn your motor off and take your little pin tool or your needle tool and poke a little hole, measure it, see how much you have. So a 1/2 inch is good because you're going to want to trim it. Remember, I wanted you to trim. So you could leave a 1/2 inch at the bottom of it. Ideally, it would be, perfectly 1/4 inch, but we're not going there. We're going to do a 1/2 inch, right? Now you're ready to start pulling your clay towards you. It's called pull your clay out, but you're pulling it towards you. All right, and again, you're using your left hand as a brace up against the base of the clay at 6 o'clock, and you're bringing the other hand from the middle slowly. You don't want to pull faster than the speed of the wheel, so you're just going with the spin, and you're pulling towards you. And again, your hands got to be wet. Right, you gotta move the clay evenly. You can't stop and start, stop and start. No, you can't do that because then you're gonna get it uncentered, right? And then it's gonna be all over the place. You gotta go nice and smooth and nice and slowly. All right, you gotta be consistent. All right. Smooth all the unevenness and make sure your clay is not too dry. Get your sponge, get a little wet, get it in there, back and forth. Now you're ready to make the floor of your pot, okay? Your speed is still at that medium slow speed, all right? Do not overhang the clay. When you finish pulling, let it go. Make sure you let it go slowly so it can stay centered. If the bottom is too thick or uneven, pass your thumb on the bottom from the center to the side. Don't go up there to the top at 12 o'clock. If you do that, you're going to be pushing and then you're going to get it all centered. So don't do that. Go from the middle and push outward to 3 o'clock. Okay, so you're pushing down and it's going to get rid of that extra clay. And you can also have your sponge in your hand to do it when you're pushing. We want to compress the bottom so we don't get those S cracks when it dries. And again, you're just going from center to 3, center to 4, center to 5, then center to 6 when you're pressing. Now you're ready to raise your walls, okay? Again, your speed is still at the same speed. You're not going to go fast. You always want to stay at that medium speed now. Medium, you know. So now you're over there at the 3 o'clock, and you're going to be squeezing your fingers together where you have your left hand inside your opening now on the 3 o'clock side of the wall, and then your right hand is on the outside. And you're going to be squeezing, starting all the way at the very bottom, all right? And then you're going to be bringing it all the way up. And if you're not comfortable with your fingertips, have a sponge in your hand on the outside. Now remember, 3 o'clock, all right, between 3 and 4 when you're bringing your walls up. Contact the clay with fingertips to avoid unnecessary friction. If you add too much, you know, make sure you have water too, because that's going to cause friction. All right, now you're ready to pull it all the way up. Okay, now you're actually ready to pull, not just bring the wall, but actually pull it up. Okay, so you do that. You go from the bottom and you start coming up. All right, and it just appears. Don't go ahead. Don't go faster. Don't force it up. You stay behind the movement. When it's starting, the clay is going to start moving upward when you have your hands like this. Okay, they're going to be upward. So you stay behind it when it's moving upward, nice and slowly. Then you want to smooth the rim at the end of each pull, but don't just pull off really fast. What happens if you pull off too fast? It's going to get off centered. You got to go slow and release very slowly. Right? So second pull, same thing. All right, make sure your hands are wet, make sure your sponge is ready, and again, this is where you start getting your walls thinner. Same approach, all right? Then you want to start cleaning your cylinder with your sponge. You can take your rib, your little wooden rib or your rubber rib, and you can use that to clean. If you think you've got some really, you know, thick little areas, you can clean it off that way, or you can even use your metal scraper to clean off the sides. All right, use your sponge to clean the inside and also start getting your rims cleaned. Now you can collar it. Okay, remember you're going to be pinching it. You pinch it, and then you take your finger and you press. That's going to create your rim. So now you want to do the shaping. If you wanted to have your indentations going in, you would collar it at the top. That would squeeze it in a little bit. Or you can put your hand inside and push inward, and that's going to make it poke outward. All right, so you're shaping, you know, you would have to play with it and decide what you like best. Don't flare out too much. If you just push out with that inside hand pushing, and you don't do any guiding with the outside hand, it's going to wide open, and a lot of times it'll get too thin, and then it'll buckle, right? It'll just collapse on you. So you got to be really careful that your hands are moving at the same, but one isn't moving more than the other. You know, you don't want one inside hand pushing more than the other. And make sure your fingertips are touching and your hands are wet. Okay, you're going to smooth. Once you're all finished, that's when you're going to start getting your index finger in your pinch mode and get that nice thin lip. All right, you do that multiple times, but you want to make sure you're not actually pinching it. You're just guiding it. Okay, see there, you're guiding it. Okay, I got to figure out my camera there. Guiding it. Okay, and you touch. If you have a chamois cloth or even a damp paper towel, you could do the same thing and clean the rim off. Now, the pug's done, we got to get it off that bat, right? So we got to wet trim it. So you're going to get your wooden modeling tool that has that 45-degree angle. It's got that nice little diagonal edge on it. And you want to come across at the very bottom. You want to hold it, really hold it, okay? And get it on the bottom and start releasing and taking away the excess clay. Now be careful, you don't want to poke a hole in it though. Okay. You want to clear as much clay as possible and minimize the trimming effort later on. Okay, the less you have to trim, the better. And watch your angle of your tool. You don't want it to be flat. You want to have a nice little diagonal and keep it cleaned off. Now you're ready to cut your pot off your bat. You're going to get your cutting wire, your wire tool, and you are going to make it nice and tight. You're going to splash a little water on the top and the front of it. You're going to come across and you're going to pull, make sure it's flat against that bat though. You don't want it up. You're going to cut it in half and just shimmy it underneath, okay? Now, a lot of times that doesn't do anything, right? You're like, it didn't do anything. It's not coming off. Well, then you need to do it again, right? Put some more water on it and cut it all the way through. All right, so there we go. We're doing it a second time. Water on the wheel head there on that bat. Really, don't be nice. Get some water right there because you want to get it underneath so we can slip that baby off, right? And that's our next step. You're going to remove that bat from your wheel head. You're going to take it, you're going to tilt it, and you're going to have to guide it very carefully with your fingers and push it off. And you're putting it on your little black meat tray or whatever else. And then you're going to go put it in the storage area, right? So it can get a little leather hard, and then we can trim it, right? So remove and place on another surface until dry enough to trim, all right? So pretty easy when it comes to these steps, all right? Hopefully you're thinking about them. Maybe again, we'll be able to get back on the wheel after school or something like that next year, or maybe during AEP if you want to try it again, all right? So those are your steps. I want you to think about the tools that you're used also in your wheel throwing, because that's what you're going to go over for your questions, or the tools that you're going to use. So I want you to visually think about them. I have a document on there for all the tools and the definitions, and then there's a drawing of the tools, okay? So make sure you pay attention to the Word document that I'm giving you that has the drawings of the tools too, all right? Because you're going to have to know which tools go in the bucket, all right, for the quiz.